Speducation, and I am your host, Brandon Reed. And today we're going to be taking a look at some more parts of the IEP and why they're important. So, without further ado, let's dive into today's lesson. Today's lesson, what is progress monitoring? Progress monitoring is a big part of special education, but do you know why? Oh, you don't know what progress monitoring is? Okay, well, let me clarify it for you. Progress monitoring is a scientifically based practice used to assess a child's academic progress on IEP goals and evaluate the effectiveness of instruction. Progress monitoring tells the teacher what a child has learned and what still needs to be taught. So basically, the progress monitoring helps us determine whether or not the instruction that we're providing and the services that we're providing are meeting the students' needs. Because if the progress reports show us that the students are still struggling, then maybe we need to go back and reevaluate how we're servicing the student, or what supports are working and what supports aren't. But more importantly, they tell us how the student is progressing towards their goal. There are many ways to progress monitor students, but why? Why do there have to be so many different ways? Well, because each child is different and each child's IEP is different. So there has to be progress monitoring methods that meet the child's needs and meet the goals that are written. So, for example, you wouldn't want to give a student that has dyslexia a reading test or a progress monitoring method that involves Shakespeare because, come on, I mean, it's Shakespeare. It's pretty deep. But if you give the student a reading passage that's at their level or slightly above their level, that's more likely to produce a result that's going to give us information that we can use to help service the student. So the progress monitoring method has to meet the goal that is written. So that's why it's so important, and that's why there are so many different progress monitoring methods. The different types of progress monitoring methods are listed below. Here are some examples of the different types. Time sampling for on-task behavior tracking. This is usually done when we have things like a functional behavior assessment to gauge how often the student is on task. Checklist to monitor functional abilities. Decoding skill tests such as oral reading. Written anecdotal records to note any behavioral changes. Frequency counts to track how often and how many times behaviors occur. Time multiplication sheets, such as multiply and divide, 1, 2, 3, and 4 number problems. That specifically really does help with those students that have difficulty with remembering their multiplication facts, because by the time they get to high school, they should already have those down or memorized. But individuals with learning disabilities may have trouble still doing that. So that's where calculators come in. And that's why the progress monitoring lets us know that the student still struggles with this. So one of the services that needs to be provided is calculator. And these are just some of the types of progress monitoring. There are hundreds, even thousands of them. So how often does progress monitoring occur? Well, that depends.
What?
That's right. It does depend on the individual student and the goals. Some goals require multiple data points, such as behavior goals, while others may only require 1 or 2. So it really depends on the student. Everything that's related to the IEP is specific to the student. That's why it's called an IEP, an individualized education plan. Even the progress monitoring is individualized. The big takeaway is that progress monitoring is important because it shows the progress the student is making over the course of a period of time, either in graphs, rubrics, or descriptive documentation. The help guide, they help guide the special education teacher on what supports work and which ones don't. That's why we have annual case conferences, because when we look at the progress monitoring, we're able to use that data to tell us, is this support, is this service helping the student? Because if it's not, then we don't want to continue using it. So we're going to have to find something else. And then without progress monitoring, special education teachers would not be able to determine whether the students are making progress on their goals, which is the entire point of progress monitoring. So hopefully this has cleared up a few things for you in regards to progress monitoring. But if you still have questions, please feel free to leave those questions in the comments section, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. So what are we going to be learning about next week? Well, next week, we're going to be talking about accommodation versus modification. They sound very similar, but why are they different? And why is it important that we know the difference between them? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. So if you liked what you saw today, please click the like button. And if you want updates on future videos, feel free to click the subscribe button and ring the bell for updates on future videos. And as always, if you have questions, please leave those in the comments section so that I can answer them for you, and make sure that you share this channel with others. And until next time, class dismissed.